don't know him.
Anything over 40 grand he owes me, because that was his last paycheck.
Two of the deadliest fighters, charismatic trash talkers, and fan favorites are circling each other like unfinished business. Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz have a long-going rivalry. One choked the other out on short notice. The other came back with a split decision most still argue about. With one win each, both are looking for a third fight to complete their trilogy. The hunger to dismantle the other is brewing since 2016, but UFC doesn't seem to set them up for a third fight. What if it finally happens? Who'd walk away with a victory? These are questions every fight fan has in mind, and in this video, I'll answer all of these, from looking at their past fights, the ongoing tension, and the final verdict. Who'd win the Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz 3? But before we jump into that, let's go back in time and see how this rivalry even began. McGregor versus Diaz didn't come together like most fights, it came out of chaos. It was March 2016. Conor McGregor was at the peak of his featherweight career.
2015 was my year. 2016 is also my year. Every year is my year.
Undefeated for several years and had recently made record of a 13-second KO of Jose Aldo. He was in his prime, ready to dismantle everybody at any weight class. At UFC 196, he was set to move up and fight Rafael dos Anjos for the lightweight belt. But just 2 weeks before the fight, Dos Anjos dropped out of fight due to a broken foot. The arrangements were made, tickets were sold, and the fight couldn't be stopped, so UFC had to book somebody else. Somebody who had the guts to face off the Irishman, even if it was a last-moment pick. And the best bet was Nate Diaz, as he had already challenged McGregor multiple times.
Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for. I'm gonna fight you. You know what's the real fight. What's the real money fight is me.
Diaz took the fight on just 11 days' notice at welterweight, 170 pounds. He didn't ask for more time training, he just wanted to fight Conor one way or another. And that's what made it the most dangerous fight of Nate's career. He wasn't trying to win a belt, he just wanted to finish the loudest name in the game. In the opening minutes of fight, McGregor came out aggressive, landed heavy left hands, and was clearly looking for an early finish. But Diaz, being an iron chin, absorbed the damage, stayed in the pocket, and just kept throwing. That Stockton pressure started to build. Then came round two. Due to hyper movement and back to hits, McGregor slowed down, but Diaz's cardio didn't. He started tagging Conor with that signature 1-2 combination. Conor shot for a desperation takedown, and that's when Diaz did what he does the best. He snatched the neck, locked in a rear naked choke, and forced McGregor to tap out.
Now he's got the back. That's it. He's got the chain. Diaz. He's done it. It's all over.
Just like that, Nate Diaz pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. He shut silent the most chaotic dog of UFC. The fight pulled in 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. More importantly, it shattered the aura of invincibility around McGregor. One moment he was untouchable, the next he was gasping for air. That's how this rivalry was born. Not with trash talk or build-up, but with Nate Diaz walking in on short notice and handing McGregor his first UFC loss. After getting submitted at UFC 196, Conor McGregor wasn't just looking for revenge, he was obsessed with it. Remember, he's the same guy who charged on Khabib's bus with anything that comes into his hand. How could he let go of the public humiliation he faced after the Diaz fight? For a guy like McGregor, everything had to be balanced. So just 5 months later, at UFC 202, the rematch was set. Same opponent, same weight class, but no belt on the line. It was pure revenge. And for a fight like that, UFC cashes every moment. Press conferences turned into trash talk battles. Fighters would throw bottles, and every time they'd face each other, security had to step in. This wasn't just an ordinary fight, this time it was personal. August 20th at exactly 10 p.m., the match started. While Diaz had his plan ready, Conor had his strategy straight. He kept his momentum, shot some early hooks, and kept targeting Diaz's lead leg to slow him down. But just like in the first fight, Nate didn't step back. He kept pushing till 5 rounds. They battled for the full 25 minutes. And by the final bell, neither man had given an inch. McGregor had done enough early. Diaz never stopped coming forward. In the end, the jury decided by unanimous decision that McGregor has won this battle. With one win each, the series got tied, but the rivalry was far from over, and with both men still standing after a war like that, you just knew this wasn't over. They had to run it back one more time. But will the UFC actually schedule McGregor versus Diaz 3? As of now, nothing is officially on the books. No official statement from Dana White, no contracts or dates announced. But let's not get fooled by it because the fighters seem ready to complete the historic trilogy. In May 2025, Nate Diaz publicly accepted that me and Conor for sure got unfinished business, and he'd love to compete for the BMF belt. On the other side, McGregor has echoed that same energy for years. Back at the UFC 264 press conference in 2021, when asked about his interest in a trilogy fight, he replied, "However, that was 4 years ago and the hype has only grown stronger since. Even Dana White, who's known for playing it close to the chest, told the fight is always there if Diaz wants it." It's not just talk, the fans are still all in. Every time there's a big UFC card like UFC 300, every MMA fan with demands for McGregor versus Diaz 3. Some are even calling for a 2026 showdown to mark the 10-year anniversary of their first fight. The timing would be perfect. But it's not all smooth sailing. McGregor is locked in for his return at UFC 303 against Michael Chandler. That fight could delay any trilogy talk depending on how it plays out. Diaz, on the other hand, has been making waves in boxing, fighting Jorge Masvidal in 2024 and keeping one foot outside the UFC cage. Still, with both guys still active, hungry, and constantly circling each other, this fight feels like it's just waiting for the right moment. And if that moment comes, one question will be louder than all the others. Who'd win? Let's break it down statistically. At 36 years old, Conor McGregor still has one of the sharpest striking games in the UFC. He's sitting on a 22-6 record, and when it comes to landing clean shots, few do it better. That famous left hand that dropped Nate Diaz twice in their rematch is still the most brutal shot in MMA. He also used leg kicks effectively in that second fight, which slowed Diaz down and helped him control the pace early. But even with that firepower, McGregor hasn't been flawless. His cardio has let him down in longer fights, something we saw clearly in the first Diaz bout. Then came the broken leg in 2021, followed by a stretch where he lost 3 of his last 4. He hasn't fought since that Poirier fight, but from all signs, he's back in training and focused on his next fight against Michael Chandler. On the flip side, Nate Diaz, now 39 with a 21-13 record, is a completely different kind of danger. He doesn't rely on speed or knockout power. Instead, he's all about pressure, cardio, and staying in your face for 5 full rounds. He lands almost 5 significant strikes per minute and rarely takes a step back. That rear naked choke he slapped on McGregor back at UFC 196 is still one of the most iconic finishes in recent years. Over time, though, Diaz has slowed down a bit. His movement looked a step behind in the fight against Tony Ferguson. He's never been a knockout artist, with just 5 wins coming by KO, but he makes up for it with durability. He might start slow, but once he finds his rhythm, Diaz is hard to stop. If this trilogy goes down at 155 pounds, it probably favors McGregor. That's his natural weight, where his speed and precision shine the most. If it happens at 1700, Diaz will feel more at home. The weight class alone could tilt the outcome. Michael Bisping, former UFC fighter, believes the trilogy will happen and Conor will smoke Nate Diaz because Nate Diaz has always been an average fighter. He just built his career on choking out Conor McGregor. In the second fight, he got beaten, and now, because of all his inactivity, Conor will smoke him. The same goes for Luke Thomas's prediction. In a 2022 interview, he pointed out how McGregor's changes since their first fight, especially his pacing and use of leg kicks, could help him win again, possibly by decision if he sticks to that game plan. However, Damon Martin, a senior MMA reporter, thinks Diaz is still dangerous. If McGregor fades late, Diaz has the cardio and the ground game to take advantage, maybe even sneak in another submission. Most predictions lean toward McGregor getting the job done in rounds 3 or 4. He's got the power, the timing, and the playbook from UFC 202. But if the gas tank becomes an issue again and Diaz turns it into a brawl, anything can happen. One thing's clear, if this fight gets booked, it won't be one-sided. It won't be easy. It'll be another war between 2 of the toughest names in the sport.